Korean panelists, Director Shin is with us, and also Professor Choi Won-gi is also with us.
Welcome, Professor.
So already we are on live. Just we'll wait for another 30 seconds here. Okay, so Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon to everyone. I welcome all the panelists of this webinar today and also the participants. The webinar on Bangladesh Republic of Korea, the 47th anniversary of diplomatic ties, is jointly organized by South Asian Institute of Policy and Governance of North-South University and Embassy of Republic of Korea at Dhaka. The main theme of this webinar today is past, present, and future of Korea-Bangladesh relationship. Let me introduce the panel a little bit. I'm Professor Taufik. I am the Director of South Asian Institute of Policy and Governance and Chair of the Department of Political Science and Sociology of North-South University. We have with us Ambassador Masood bin Momen, Foreign Secretary of the Government of Bangladesh, the Senior Secretary. And we have with us Ambassador Mr. Lee Jiang-kun, Ambassador to Bangladesh, the South Korean Ambassador. And Mr. Khondokar Talha, the Director General of East Asia and Pacific Wing, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh. Mr. Sing Dong-woo, Director of Asia and Pacific Division 2, Minister of Foreign Affairs of South Korea. Professor Delwar Hossain, Department of International Relations of University of Dhaka. Professor Abdul Hannan Chowdhury, Professor and Dean, School of Business and Economics, North-South University. Professor Cho Won-gi, Head of Center for ASEAN Indian Studies, IFANS. Mr. Ki Hak Sung, Chairman and CEO of Yangon Corporation. And we also have with us Ambassador Abida Islam, who is Ambassador to the Republic of Korea of Bangladesh. And this session will be chaired by Professor Atikul Islam, Vice Chancellor of North-South University, and will be moderated by Ambassador Shohidul Haq, Senior Fellow of South Asian Institute of Policy and Governance of North-South University. Before I hand it over to today's moderator, I will be moderating it for a time being, and then I just let you know about the modality of the event. We will have an introductory speech by Ambassador Lee Jiang-kun and also Ambassador Masood bin Momen at the beginning. And then I will hand it over the moderation responsibility to Ambassador Shohidul Haq, and he will carry forward the rest of the session. Before I go to the next discussion, let me give a brief introduction about South Asian Institute of Policy and Governance at North-South University. South Asian Institute of Policy and Governance is a regional center or institute working in the field of the public policy and governance. And it has been working in North-South University almost more than 1 decade. We have an international graduate program. It's called Masters in Public Policy and Governance, where the young civil servants from different South and Southeast Asian countries come and join. We have students from Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, and Malaysia at this moment. And they all are the young civil servants mostly working in the government. We do lots of this comparative study in the South Asian Institute of Policy and Governance, mostly on South Asian issues of policy and governance, and also sometimes comparative study with South and Southeast Asia. SIPG has a partnership with some sorts of different institute in Korea, like Korea University, and especially we have some good contact with KDI School of Public Policy and Management at Seoul, and we are having some joint collaboration still in a very early stage with them. And NSU also has a NSU signed a MOU, formal MOU with Salisbury International School of Usong University and also the Yangon Corporation. So we have the CEO of Yangon today, and we have a formal MOU, but probably we need to renew it in a very short period of the time. So these are the kind of the relationship already we have established within North-South University, and we are very keen to know that how in future we can have more kind of education and research collaboration with South Korean universities and research and training institutes. SIPG is going to organize an international conference on digitalization of governance in South and Southeast Asia at the end of the next year. And we are very keen to have some sorts of the participations of South Asia, South Korea, because South Korea is doing fantastic in terms of e-governance. Regarding the e-governance indicators, it is one of the topmost countries in the world. So we are also looking very much forward to have some participation from South Korean scholars and practitioners in this international conference. I'll be ending with by saying that as an university, we are also very keen to see that our students and faculties are getting in touch with the South Korean students and faculty members from the perspective of people-to-people contact. And it's quite surprising that in recent times in North-South University, when I was talking with my students that we are going to organize this webinar on the South Korea-Bangladesh relationship, with a pleasant surprise, I found that our young students, they are so much fond of this, the BTS band of South Korea, which is now a global band, like so many, and I was quite shocked by seeing in the YouTube that they have, one of their music has had 2 billion views. Oh my God. And I'm sure in Bangladesh and many other countries, they're one of the most popular band. These are the kind of medium through which we can get more kind of people-to-people contact. And also a very interesting incident that I will be sharing, and before my speech I finish. We had a South Korean student at North-South University. I don't know whether our friends in the embassy, they know that, and he's very popular in the web as a Korean Bhai. And if you go and search him in the YouTube, you'll be finding that this Korean Bhai, he speaks Bangla. He's a South Korean, not an NSU student, but he speaks Bangla, and his blogs and videos are so popular and very interesting. So these are the kind of the examples that through which we can probably get more close at the people level. So with that note, I will conclude my remarks here, and I would request now our Honorable Ambassador of South Korea to Bangladesh, Mr. Lee Zhang-kun, to give his opening remarks. Sorry. Can you please unmute your microphone? It's been muted.
Right.
Yeah, it's okay now. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good introduction, and also good afternoon, everybody. And let me first express my sincere appreciation to our moderator, former Foreign Secretary, Dr. Shahid Haq, for organizing this wonderful webinar. And also I thank the NSU, especially the Vice Chancellor Atikul Islam, and also Dr. Professor Tawfiq Haq, our introductory speaker, for co-hosting this event with us. And also I'd like to express my sincere thanks to Foreign Secretary Masoud bin Momen for being with us today, despite he is not fully recovered yet, but he was very willing to be a part of today's discussion. And also my thanks go to the panelists and other speakers who have kindly agreed to contribute to today's discussions, especially from Seoul. I thank Director Shin Dong-woo and also Professor Choi Won-gi, and also Her Excellency Ambassador Abida Islam. It's very good to see Excellency here. And also I should not forget my thanks to those who are with us via Zoom or Facebook. As Professor Tawfiq said, the goal of today's webinar is to share our thoughts and ideas for designing future relations between Korea and Bangladesh, especially on the occasion of the 47th anniversary of our diplomatic ties. Actually, while I was searching diplomatic archives for this webinar, I found one very interesting fact about the role of the former UN Secretary General, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, when our two countries established diplomatic relations. Mr. Ban Ki-moon joined the Korean Foreign Ministry in 1970. And when Bangladesh declared independence in 1971, he was a junior desk officer in charge of Bangladesh at the time. Mr. Shin Dong-woo, you have to remember this very interesting historical fact. And you know, he drafted a memo to then President Park Chung-hee, proposing to recognize this new country. And it happened on May 12th, 1972. And after that, then he was posted to Korean Consulate General in New Delhi. And from where he continued to take charge of Bangladesh-Korea relations. And together with his boss, at that time, Ambassador Roh Shin-young, who later became Korean Prime Minister, Mr. Ban traveled to Dhaka several times for negotiating the terms of diplomatic ties, and which was 47 years ago already. And I think it is meaningful to know about this historical fact, as it is a diplomatic asset for our two countries to have a person like Mr. Ban Ki-moon as a supporter and also promoter of our relations. As you know, he is now working very closely with Prime Minister Hashina and also the Foreign Minister Momen on the various international agenda, in particular on climate change. So since then, for the past 5 decades, the relationship between our two countries have developed swiftly and also steadily. And I'd like to briefly touch upon some major aspect of our relations. And among that, first and foremost, FDI. According to the recent statistics of Bangladesh Bank, Korea is the 5th major foreign investor to Bangladesh with a cumulative investment of $1.1 billion US. And Youngwon, the chairman Sung Gi-ak, Youngwon is the largest Korean investor, employing around 80,000 local workers, having factories not only in KPZ, but also in CEPZ, also in Dhaka EPZ. Youngwon has factories. And there are 75 Korean companies operating in Bangladesh EPZ, which makes Korea the #1 EPZ foreign investor. And second thing is infrastructure. And infrastructure is an area where we are witnessing increasing cooperation in recent years. And more Korean companies are participating in major infrastructure projects in Bangladesh, such as the 3rd terminal of Dhaka International Airport. And the launched the PPP, private-public partnership recently, to facilitate Korean companies' participation in major Bangladesh infrastructure programs. And so far, 4 projects have been agreed to be implemented on the GPC platform. And third is expatriate workers. Expatriate workers are another important pillar of our partnership. And there are above or more than 18,000 Bangladesh people living in Korea. And among them, more than half, more than 10,000 are semi-skilled workers dispatched through EPS, a so-called employment permit system. And also, again, according to Bangladesh Bank, Korea is ranked 12th in terms of the origin of remittances by Bangladesh expatriate workers abroad. And fourth is ODA. And ODA, Bangladesh is the 3rd largest recipient of Korea's ODA, totaling $791 million US from 1987 to 2019. And Bangladesh is one of the priority partner countries of Korea's ODA. And these are just a few examples on how close the bilateral ties between Korea and Bangladesh. Now, what's important is how Korea and Bangladesh should cultivate the future relations together, which is the very subject of today's webinar. And for me, I would summarize the future directions of our relations with 3 words: elevation, diversification, and generation. Elevation, we should aim for taking our cooperation into a higher ground with a totally different level than now. And I'm very willing to do my best to take our bilateral relations into a totally new level during my mandate here. And about diversification, we should diversify the areas of our cooperation, moving beyond the traditional RMG sector into wider areas such as ICT, health, energy, infrastructure, and even climate change. And about generation, we should develop cooperation targeting young generations. As Professor Tawfiq said, it is really what's happening among the youngsters of Bangladesh about the likings of Korea and Korean culture. And considering Bangladesh is a young country with more than 50% of its population under the age of 25, there are many talented and capable Bangladeshi young people, and they are the future of Korea-Bangladesh ties. So I'm also doing many consultations in that regard with the ministries concerned, especially ICT Ministry and Ministry of Education, how we can target these young people and develop cooperation program. So before closing, I'd like to emphasize that Korea and Bangladesh are really natural partner, which makes the future of our relations very bright, full of opportunities. We have many similarities and commonalities, geographically and historically and culturally as well. And such commonalities provide a very fertile ground for strengthened cooperation for the future of our 2 countries. Today's webinar is very meaningful as it will provide us with a rare opportunity to look into our relations and to assess the weakness and strength of our cooperation, and also provide various ideas for future and further strengthen and deepen ties. I do wish we all have a very fruitful discussion today, and hope today's webinar provide many insights, hindsight, and foresight for strengthening our relations in the future. Thank you very much, and 감사합니다. 오넥 돈노밭.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Lee Jung-koon, for a very comprehensive statement and giving us an idea about the historical track record of this relationship and also future direction for the relationship of these 2 countries. Now, I would request the Senior Secretary of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh, Ambassador Masood bin Momen, to give his speech. Sir.
Thank you, Professor Tawfiq, for the introduction. Vice Chancellor of North-South University, Professor Atikul Islam, Ambassador Lee, eminent panelists, especially our friend, Mr. Ki Hak Song, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, and Amion Kasio. I'm delighted to address today's distinguished gathering. In fact, today is my first office after 21 days because of the COVID. At the outset, let me convey my sincere appreciation to the organizers, the Embassy of the Republic of Korea in Dhaka and South Asian Institute on Policy and Governance of the North-South University for this very timely initiative. I also thank Ambassador Lee and Dr. Tawfiq Haq for the selected theme, Past, Present, and Future of Korea-Bangladesh Relations. This is indeed very timely and perhaps more significantly happening on the eve of the 47th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between our 2 countries. The significance of such self-introspection can hardly be overstated. I would be remiss if I don't mention today's main moderator and my predecessor, former Foreign Secretary, Senior Secretary, Mr. Shahidul Haq, Senior Fellow of NSU, who has been instrumental behind this event. Distinguished participants, the relationship between Bangladesh and the Republic of Korea is founded on mutual respect, interests, and common ethos. We share similar elements in our history of struggle for establishing democracy and upholding the dignity of our respective mother languages. We have the same aspirations for peace, development, and a rule-based international system. Since the establishment of our diplomatic relations in 1973, cooperation between our two countries has been deepening and widening. The visit of the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to the Republic of Korea in May 2010 and the visit of the then Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon to Bangladesh in July 2019 have added impetus to the momentum and paved ways to materialize the immense potential of our excellent relations. While we enjoy the best of relations, there remains vast untapped possibilities to mutually benefit from trade and investment, education, technological collaboration, people-to-people contacts. I would urge today's panelists to address these areas to help identify possible areas of cooperation which could add more substance to our excellent relations. Distinguished panelists and participants, under the dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, as Bangladesh strides towards realizing the dream of Sonar Bangla, a prosperous Bangladesh, as envisioned by the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, whose birth centenary we are celebrating right now, Republic of Korea remains an important partner all along this path of socio-economic development and technological advancement. The Republic of Korea has proven to be a trusted development partner of Bangladesh. South Korea is one of the first foreign investors in Bangladesh, and they took a chance when Bangladesh was still being labeled as a bottomless basket. Their private investors were pioneers for the development of our ready-made garment industry, and they were the first to set up an exclusive foreign export processing zone in our country. Both Bangladesh and Republic of Korea are now keen to move beyond textiles and leather and broaden the scope of partnership by exploring new avenues. We welcome their interest in investing in large infrastructural development with the aim to increase trade and investment between the two countries. Korea Overseas Infrastructure and Urban Development Corporation, KIND, representing Korea, is supporting Korean companies to work in partnership with foreign private investors or foreign governments for promoting project planning, information, and bankability. It is impressive to see how KIND and the Public-Private Partnership Authority, PPPA, are working together to select and implement large-scale infrastructures in Bangladesh. Their partnership is crucial to the implementation of a sustainable project that will be mutually beneficial and have a positive impact on the economic growth of Bangladesh. Dear participants, Republic of Korea is one of the significant trade and investment partners of Bangladesh. It is encouraging to see the continued growth of two-way trade. As our economies progress, there remains ample scope to explore and enhance trade and investment in the sectors of information and communication technology, particularly Internet of Things, electronics, power and energy, deep sea fishing, shipbuilding, car assembling, infrastructure development, high-end consumer and biotech products, exploration of minerals, to name a few. I would invite the business people from the Republic of Korea to take advantage of the congenial business climate of Bangladesh's rapidly growing economy. Republic of Korea is increasingly becoming a popular choice of higher education for our students. So it is no coincidence that North-South University is behind the organization of this event. We can only hope that we can build on this to promote more cooperation between the students and academicians and educational institutions between the two countries. Korea has also emerged as one of the most attractive destinations of our skilled and semi-skilled workforce, particularly under the existing employment permit scheme. There remains a huge untapped potential to train and engage our workforce in the fields of agriculture, construction, fisheries, and home care. Bangladesh too is recognized as one of the most competitive destinations for foreign investment. The country offers several investment-friendly policies, including equal treatment for local and foreign investors, legal protection against nationalizations or expropriation, tax and duty exemptions, and guarantees for repatriation of capital dividend. The people of Bangladesh, the government, and the private sector have always been resilient to overcome natural disasters and economic shocks through their ingenuity and sheer hard work. Bangladesh also has a large dynamic youth population, and the government is making significant investments in their education and skill development to reap the benefits of a large demographic dividend. The COVID-19 pandemic poses an unprecedented challenging time for all of us. Nevertheless, the Republic of Korea has managed to contain the disease with remarkable success, at least during the first round. Let me take this opportunity to express our gratitude for the COVID-related assistance provided by the Republic of Korea in these difficult times. In this regard, let me also urge all for a global united response for containing this pandemic, ensuring availability of vaccines on a global scale, and reviving the global economy. We deeply value the material and political support rendered by the Republic of Korea to the cause of over 1 million Rohingyas of the Rakhine state of Myanmar, who has taken temporary shelter in Bangladesh. Together, we shall have to ensure that these persecuted and forcefully displaced Myanmar nationals can return to their ancestral homes in safety and security and in a sustainable manner. We know Koreans also have strategic economic interests in Myanmar, and therefore it is imperative that we all can ensure stability in the region. Any long-term or protracted refugee situation can create security and stability threats. Therefore, we would like to see Korea play a more proactive role in the repatriation of the Rohingyas, along with other like-minded countries. In regional context, as signatories of Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, Bangladesh has always been supportive to the cause of a peaceful, nuclear-free Korean Peninsula. In the international arena, we are working closely for global peace and security, safe migration, human and drug trafficking, rule-based international trading system, disarmament, and nuclear non-proliferation and climate change. While we are celebrating the 47th anniversary of the establishment of our diplomatic relations in 2020, I am confident that with our shared values and commitment to promoting peace and development, we shall ensure prosperity for our peoples. A new era of our partnership has begun, and let the new era bring us closer, connect us deeper, and help us build a sustainable partnership between Bangladesh and Korea. The new ambassador of Korea, Mr. Lee, will play a significant role in this regard, we hope. Long live Bangladesh, Republic of Korea friendship. Thank you, and kamsahamnida.
Thank you very much, Senior Secretary Ambassador Masood bin Momen, for a very visionary kind of a statement and setting the tone for the whole discussion for today's webinar. I would also like to give a special thanks to Secretary Masood bin Momen for attending this webinar, even after being having this corona, and we wish a very quick recovery. I hope that already he has recovered. So with that note, I would now request Ambassador Shahidul Haq, the Senior Secretary, the Senior Fellow of North-South University, to moderate the rest of the session. Ambassador Shahidul Haq, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Taufik. I think we had a very interesting start because of two very distinguished persons who are responsible currently to take forward Bangladesh and Republic of Korea relationship has spoken. and given, as Professor Tawfiq has rightly pointed out, a direction and a vision. So we will try and build on it. We have today 6 very distinguished panelists coming from various fields and experience of both Bangladesh and Korea. So we will hear them, and I'll introduce them as we go along. The way we thought we'll organize it is that we will have an initial 5-6 minutes introductory remark, and then go into a more interactive sessions, and then come back and take a second round to make it more lively and focused. Now, as been pointed out, that our relationship since 1973 has grown in many fields, even in the area of defense cooperation, that we are aware of it, this was, I think, one of the first Southeast Asian countries who came forth, as the Foreign Secretary has rightly pointed out, and had a faith on the future of Bangladesh. That's very important in those days. There were not too many countries who were willing to invest in Bangladesh their own money. So thank you for that. And I know the whole RMG sector actually that we see now has took off because of Korea's help. And we have a very legendary figure with us, whom I'll introduce properly later, and we'll hear him as well. Today we'll try and see what has happened in terms of our relationship, Bangladesh and Korea, over the last 47 years in various fields. There has been also mention of culture, and we'll come back to that in terms of Netflix movies that we didn't realize that these are actually Korean drama that had grown popularity in Bangladesh as well. And then look at what worked and what didn't work in terms of weaknesses and strength of the relationship. Relationship is a very tricky thing, especially state relationship, and there are ups and downs, and there are pitfalls, but there are also high points, as Ambassador Lee has pointed out, that he will try his best to lift the relation to a greater heights, and we are with him in this, and this is one of those first attempts to lay out things on the table, and then we go ahead and see how we can move forward. Look at out of the box. So we have these 3 particular focus, and I will try and also share some of the statistics that I have with me in terms of FDA, trade, and it's quite a spread. I'm sure some of the colleagues will bring that out before Ambassador Abida wraps up and our Vice Chancellor makes his concluding remark. So may I at this stage invite Dr. Abdul Hannan Chaudhry. Dr. Abdul Hannan Chaudhry is Dean of the Business School in the North-South University, and he has in his credit 32 years of experience of teaching, and he has done his PhD in industrial engineering, very relevant today in terms of technology and innovation, the Northeastern University, and he has been instrumental in building up the business faculty in the North-South University. Sir, we would like to hear from you, sort of setting the scene as I have done, as you have done in the past, in terms of Bangladesh's in general economy, investment climate, some of the markers, so that others can then relate it to the bigger and specific picture of Bangladesh, Korea. So you have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Shahidul Haq, Senior Foreign Secretary, former, and also currently with us at SIPG Senior Fellow, and also the moderator of today's session. I must thank the earlier 2 respected speakers, especially our Senior Secretary Masood bin Mubin, and also His Excellency Mr. Lee Jan Quing, Korean Ambassador to Bangladesh, for their valuable welcome speech. With us today, our Honorable, Professor Atikul Islam, the Vice Chancellor of North-South University, and esteemed panelists whom I must acknowledge. Even yesterday I had a chat with email with Ki Hak Song, Chairman of CEO of Young One Corporations. I mailed him for our collaboration purpose. Professor Choi Ongi, Head of Center for Asian Indian Studies, and Professor Delwar Hussain of Dhaka University, Mr. Shin Dong Woo, Director of Asia and Pacific, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Ms. Abida Islam, Ambassador of Bangladesh to Korea, Mr. Khanduka Talha, DG of East Asia and Pacific Wing of Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Once again, thank you, Dr. Tawfiq, for inviting me, also having me in this session when we're going to talk about Bangladesh, Republic of Korea, on the occasion of their 47th anniversary of diplomatic ties. I think the earlier speakers, they have categorically mentioned, Bangladesh and Korea both have similar kind of history of our people and their sacrifices, the bloodsheds and colonial rule, and finally been overcoming the oppression, and eventually, both countries have been working as an independent entity, and Korea is far more ahead than us, but we are no less now. We are also progressing. The diplomatic ties between Bangladesh and Korea have begun in 1973, and gradually we have seen this relationship between Korea and Bangladesh have strengthened our relationship, our cooperation in diverse areas, from trade to investment, from economy to even development, and also societal transformation to even cultural exchanges. These two countries have made remarkable progress in economy and also in terms of our democratic principles and overall development. And the relationship have become now, I would say, after these 47 years, multifaceted through our shared and common values and rituals and norms and also ideals. Korea have become, I would say, in my view, a proven partner for Bangladesh, a true friend who truly collaborates, with us for a long period of time, and also implemented numerous projects, development projects in our country. And as you all know, that, well, we know the status of actually economic indicators of our country, which are showing, all sort of sign of growth, and we are going to obviously prosper in the upcoming, future, upcoming years. You see, Bangladesh's GDP has grown more than 7% consistently over last, several years. And as most of you know that, well, RMG has become the backbone of our economy, and that accounted for more than 80% of our total export. And in RMG, Bangladesh has achieved the second highest export growth globally. I must thank the CEO of, Young One, who came in this country even 40 years back to work with us, to give even support to Bangladeshi people to work under his, organizations. And also there are plenty of Bangladeshi ready-made garments industries have been able to evolve through the support of Korea. I can recall even in the early 80s and late 70s, actually, Desh Garment, there was a garments industry in Bangladesh. They have sent a couple of hundred Bangladeshi mid-level managers in Korea for training purposes. These are the people, they have come back in our country. And from this 200 or more people, we all see that, well, all these people are very successful in terms of, establishing high tech, tech garments, ready-made garments industries. They have contributed enormously in our economy, in my view. And I think out of that, these garments, people, those who have got training in the early stage of ready-made garments industries revolution in our country. All of them have become very successful, employer, and millions of Bangladeshi people are employed under their industries, and so we have seen actually a steady growth in RMG sector, and we have also seen the remittance flow from overseas is coming in our country, and that has given enormous boost of rising foreign exchange reserves in our country, which is actually a strength for this country. And also the way the government is actually working right now, as most of us, we see there are visible proof that Bangladesh has done great in terms of the energy infrastructure, in terms of communication infrastructure, and all sort of advanced thing that we do from our government, and also our, they are doing. I think we have overcome the bottleneck of growth in many sense, and that's why you see that even ADB, Asian Development Bank, has also forecasted that, well, in 2021, our GDP growth is going to be even, no less than 6.8. So Bangladesh has been able to position, its, country to graduate even from LDC status by 2024, and eventually is hoping for actually enter into the developed world by 2041. And I'm sure that, well, we're going to see that things even in 2040, by 2040. As far as Korea and Bangladesh trade goes, according to the FBBCCI, data, you see that, well, South Korea stood about 1.5 billion, their bilateral trade billion, in the last fiscal year. So Korea seems like the forerunner to invest in Bangladesh by providing foreign direct investment. Korean foreign direct investment in our country continues to increase moderately. And you see that even the support that Korea has given during this pandemic, which our foreign secretary has already mentioned, Korea remains very committed in terms of strengthening our relationship and our ties with with them. They have given huge support during this pandemic in terms of test kits, masks, PPEs, all those things. Even some test booth they have given us, as far as I know. So, the Korean, cumulative investment, as already the Ambassador Lee has mentioned, that, well, it was $1.1 billion up to now. And I can also tell that, well, around 200 companies from Korean companies are actually working here in Bangladesh. And almost 50% of them are actually investing in the EPZ, the Export Promotion Zone, actually. So you see that, well, Korea becomes the top foreign investors in our country, which we acknowledge that things, the partnership and the support from Korea. The Korea is the first country to set up a dedicated export promotion zone, which we call, KEPZ. So you see that Korea is heavily engaged in our development projects, no matter its infrastructure, communication, energy, ICT, healthcare. And more than 20,000 people are actually staying in Korea in different levels. 1,300 students are actually pursuing degrees, mostly in science and engineering and technology. These people are coming back and helping our country in many different ways. So if I would like to say that, well, what we are going to expect from Korea in the upcoming years, if I would like to just briefly say, I'm going to give it to other speakers to talk about, which is Korea can surely see Bangladesh as a place for investment. And we want more knowledge transfer, more technology transfer, more partnering with mega projects, and also giving sort of skill to our people so that we can see mobility of skilled labor or skilled worker is going to happen. And from the academic part, I would also say that, well, we do have plenty of opportunities to do exchange of education, which I did even last week. We have submitted a project to Korean Ministry of Education through the Chunbuk University, Korea. We have submitted a project to collaborate with North-South University. So I'm happy to say that, well, in the earlier, speakers, they have mentioned Solby's business school in Korea was our partner through H.T. Imam, the advisor to the Prime Minister. He and I myself established that relationship with academic institution in Korea. And this time I'm hoping that we're going to have even few more Korean institutions to partner with us. So with this, this stage, I'm actually ending. Let me hear from the other esteemed panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Hannan, for the opening remarks, and certainly we'll come back to you. As mentioned by Professor Hannan, now I will request Mr. Ki-Hak-soo, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Yangwon Corporation, to speak. But before I give him the floor, sir, let me share with you some pointers. In terms of GDP, the Republic of Korea is 12th globally and 4th in Asia, and Bangladesh is 39th in the global list. And the HSBC report that came out last month suggests that Bangladesh, the way it's growing, if it continues to do so, it will be 23rd in 2030. So here you have two economies who can complement, can grow together. And our Foreign Secretary and Ambassador Lee has pointed out the avenues. But we see Chairman Ki-Hak-soo, that's how we are known in Bangladesh, as someone who pioneered investment in Bangladesh, especially in the RMG sector, as Professor Manan has rightly pointed out. So we'd like to hear from you how you see Bangladesh after staying for so long, for 2 years. It's quite long in terms of staying in a particular country. But also, what next? Where do you see we should go from RMG sector in terms of collaboration? Over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you. For giving me the floor. I'm extremely honored to participate in this venue. Thank you very much for this occasion. And then I just wanted to say a few words about the Yangwon Corporation. Yes, I have tallied our investment into the country is approaching quickly $500 million already, which is already earned money reinvested. So this is not reflected in the statistics of Korean government or all these things. So this is we have a much bigger operation than we are doing a lot of textiles. We do produce lots of textiles, especially synthetics, to supply to the Bangladesh garment industries to be able to deliver quicker, lead time, which is very, very important. Then, also, I fondly remember the time I started that we were the first investor going away from Korea, actually. One of three, but the other two is not existing anymore. So I can claim that we are the first one going out of Korea still existing. And we were fortunately became the first FDI investor in Bangladesh. And also fondly remember that we were the first large-scale woman employer of women. When I went there, a few factories, I saw lots of haggard-looking men was peddling those, this mechanical machine which has no motors there. That is what I went to Bangladesh. And also, Ambassador Lee has reminded me that how Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has started our relationship. Just 2 weeks back, I had a dinner with him, and then he has graphically explained to me about his experience in Bangladesh, which was not much different from my experience in Bangladesh. In fact, this was my fortune to be able to really invest in Bangladesh, and then I had lots of fun, of course, difficulties and difficult times, but we overcome. I think Bangladesh people are very resilient and also very, very, we have a same type of mindset, which really is easy to understand each other. And, you will be surprised that I studied in Bangladesh, and then I raised lots of engineers, managers, and then I developed my China factory with Bangladesh, team. Actually, Bangladesh team has, really trained a lot of Chinese work group. And finally, we went to Vietnam, and still my director of production in Vietnam is, Bangladeshi. Still we are supporting Bangladesh, Vietnam production. Actually, Bangladesh, what is good about is excellent middle management as well as workers. They are superb. So I was very fortunate to do, and then also we have been able to start our export processing zone in 1999 with the grace of Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and my former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo came in person to inaugurate our Korean export processing zone. This Korean export processing zone is one of its kind in the world, actually. There are few zones or industrial complexes which is as nice as our KEPZ in Chittagong, actually. Then what is our challenge here? Actually, in Bangladesh, we lack a lot of infrastructure for our garment industry, especially product which we need to really supply is this textiles and fibers, especially synthetics, to really make a synthetic product as well as combining with the mixing with the cotton. That this is the world market in the textiles. As a just immediate past president of ITMF, International Textile Manufacturing Federation, that I must say that Bangladesh needs to develop its infrastructure as well as a supply chain of backward linkage industries, which KEPZ is really striving to really make it work for Bangladesh. So I must say that Bangladesh is really going forward very similarly as Korea developed. Korea developed with the textiles, garments, textiles, and then other industries. So this is a very, very imperative that we develop. We support Bangladesh for textile supply chain so that whatever textile garment export business, which you have really achieved global prominence, should be maintained and further developed with more, more foreign exchange to earn by producing your local raw materials in the country there. Especially, you will be surprised, we have started and we are completing first batch of 40 megawatt solar roof, power plant. We are we have just started developing this one, and this is magnificent. And especially Chittagong area, we have such a good, wonderful sun shines. So we are really, we will be within like 4 years' time, we will not be requiring much of energy outside. So this is what Bangladesh can achieve with Korea. Actually, every Bangladesh companies, like a late Dhaka Mayor Anisul Haq, I have known him for many, many years, and he was also educated in Korea, in Busan, Daewoo factories there. So those things, what we are doing together with Bangladesh, Korea, we can achieve a global excellence. That I am very happy that we are graduating from, Bangladesh is graduating from, this LDC level, and then we are going toward. That was my real goal. But on the other hand, we have to prepare that, apparel industries is not negatively impacted by, affected by the duties we are subject to. So we need a lot of FTAs and PTA arrangement. And I'm especially happy that you have started PTA with Bhutan. Then Korea has lots of experience in developing this, FTA arrangements. Korea is the most accessible economy to the world because of our ministries working very hard, which actually Bangladesh should really adopt it. And then we jointly go to the world market to do better job here. So we are to achieve the global excellence in the industries we are in. And then in the industries, we are going to invest in future together with the Korean, Korean companies, which has already achieved the world best, kind of it. I'm sure that we can do a lot more. And then we should also be preparing 50 years of our businesses, diplomatic ties together with Bangladesh. So I will be preparing it, and then I'm very happy to tell you that I will make a lot of effort to do that, and we are achieving better level of cooperation between two countries by that time. And I want to thank you again for the time given to me to say this, to tell the distinguished panelists here and the participants here. Thank you very much. And then I must thank the Miss Abida Islam for her excellent work in Korean community here in Seoul. She is a very popular person in Korea. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your kind words. I can see that often you were mixing up Bangladesh with we. So that's what happens when you stay in a country for 40 years. We often do not distinguish between Bangladesh and the individual. And I can see that we are very proud of that. We also see that you are moving quite fast on the solar energy, which is the energy of future. So I'm sure that you will set another example in there, and we take from you. The time has come. We have both the ambassadors here on the platform to possibly start negotiating an FTA, possibly at an appropriate time. We can also do an FTA between us and Republic of Korea. So thank you very much, and certainly we'll come back to you, and I'm sure there will be a number of questions addressed to you, sir. And thank you for being us for so long. At this stage, may I request Dr. Professor Wang Yi. Mr. Wang Yi is professor at the Department of International Economy and the Trade Studies and the head of the Center for ASEAN-India Studies at the Korea National Diplomatic Academy. He has done PhD from Washington in Seattle and has a long experience and a lot of publications. Sir, we would like to hear from you how Korean Southern policy or the new Southern policy is fanning out, and how, in that sense, you look at Bangladesh and possibly what Bangladesh needs to do to link more, not only in terms of business but also politically. And our Foreign Secretary has rightly pointed out that we have been extremely vocal on the issue of a nuclear-free peninsula, and often aggressive move by North Korea. So it's on record. So we would like to hear from you, sir. Your impression on that. Over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to this important webinar today. I'm very honored to make a presentation. I'd like to first briefly talk about the New Southern Policy, which is the signature foreign policy initiative by President Moon in Korea. I'd like to talk about some features, especially its policy core policy elements. In particular, I will talk about three core policy elements of New Southern Policy, and then some implications for strengthening and expanding the Korea-Bangladesh bilateral relations. First, let me start with the background of New Southern Policy. I'd like to start by pointing out that if you look back on the modern diplomatic history of Korea, I think you have a structural bias or imbalance in Korea's conventional diplomatic orientations, which is giving priority only to the big four major countries: United States, China, Japan, and Russia, which have all of which these countries have a dominant influence on the Korean Peninsula, which is quite understandable. However, over the years, countries like ASEAN and India have become more and more important to Korea, especially in economic and diplomatic aspects. But they have largely remained secondary in Korean foreign policies. So we have a kind of structural imbalance or gap between our external economic and diplomatic realities and our diplomatic priorities and approaches. So with the introduction of New Southern Policy, I think we want to change this imbalance in Korea's diplomatic orientation. So with New Southern Policy, I think we intend to diversify our diplomatic and economic relations beyond the big four major countries. So I think diversification is the key word here, and diversification is the primary motivation behind New Southern Policy. Now, it has been already 3 years since President Moon initiated New Southern Policy. If we look back on the progress and achievements for the last 3 years, I think New Southern Policy is the most successful and the most active policy program under Moon administration. Of course, he had some other initiatives, but they have not delivered as much as New Southern Policy. Now, let me turn to some features of New Southern Policy, especially the core policy elements. I think we have three core policy elements in New Southern Policy. The first one is economic diversification. The second one is diplomatic, which is a diplomatic rebalancing or reorientation toward Southeast Asia and beyond. And the third one is regional cooperation. Let me briefly touch upon each of these three core policy elements. First, if you look at the Korea's trade profile, we have too much concentrated trade relationship with just a few major trading partners like China, United States, and Japan. In particular, I think we have too much focus on China China takes more than 27% of our overall trade, and this is too much. I mean, if you put all of your eggs in just one basket, it is likely that you get into trouble sometime later, right? So with the certain policy, we want to diversify and realign our trade relations with the new partners in Southeast Asia in particular, and South Asia as well. Actually, even before the introduction of new certain policy, economic diversification has been already occurring among many Korean companies operating in China. According to Korean government sources, at one time in the past, more than 45,000 Korean companies were operating their production facilities in China. Now, this number has been cut in half. We now have only 28,000 companies operating in China. So there has been a massive outflow of Korean companies from China. Then where did they go? In fact, they have mostly relocated to Southeast Asia. For example, now we have about 10,000 Korean companies doing business in Vietnam. In fact, Vietnam is the most popular country for Korean firms to invest in as well as trade with. So in this regard, I think Bangladesh comes as an important economic partner to Korea in South Asia, only after India. I think the question ahead of us is how to increase and expand bilateral trade and investment in the future. The two-way bilateral trade volume between Korea and Bangladesh now stands at just 1.7 billion. Given the size of the economy of the two countries, 1.7 billion, this is a very kind of humiliating number. We need to increase this number. I think we have lots of potential here, a lot of rooms to improve, right? I mean, the economic structure of our two countries is very much complementary, and there is a huge potential. Also, I think we have a huge potential to have more investments from Korea, especially those industrial sectors such as infrastructure, energy, ICT technology, and electronics manufacturing have good investment potentials. Right. The second policy element of New Southern policy is diplomatic rebalancing toward Southeast Asia and India in the first place, and then with other partner countries in the region. The aspiration behind the New Southern policy here is to elevate ASEAN and India as our priority diplomatic partners. So we give first priority to ASEAN and India, and we begin there. We start from there and expanding to other countries. So in this respect, New Southern policy is kind of Korea's diplomatic rebalancing effort. Let me turn to the third element, which is about regional cooperation. With this initiative of New Southern policy, I think we want to promote and expand regional cooperation that would contribute to regional peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. You know, Korea is not a major power that pursues strategic goals. Rather, we think Korea is a middle power who has limited resources and capabilities. So here, the agenda we have is very modest, not so ambitious. In this respect, I think New Southern policy is not a political agenda with strategic intentions and ambitious goals. By design, New Southern policy does not have any hard security elements. I think rather, New Southern policy is Korea's new regional cooperation agenda with a diverse set of functional and economic cooperation programs. Again, the promoting economic cooperation and collaboration that produces mutually beneficial gains with partner countries is very important. We give priority to promoting mutually beneficial economic cooperation. In this respect, Bangladesh is a very important partner to Korea in this part of the world. In fact, Korea is interested in expanding regional cooperation with South Asian and Indian Ocean Rim countries. We have interest in exploring some economic collaboration projects with member countries of SAARC and BIMSTEC, as well as BBIN. Actually, 2 years ago, as part of the New Southern Policy Initiative, Korea officially joined IORA, India Ocean Rim Association, as a dialogue partner. And this year, we have the inaugural first Korea, the IORA, the dialogue partners seminar. So with this New Southern Policy Initiative, we want to expand the horizon of our cooperation network toward countries in South Asia as well as Indian Ocean region. Again, Bangladesh is an excellent partner in this respect for our effort to implement and expand the horizon of New Southern Policy. In fact, Bangladesh is one of our priority ODA partners. So we have lots of developmental cooperation projects going on. Again, the task ahead of us is this. I think we need to make more efforts to further expand the bilateral economic engagement and cooperation between our two nations. I will stop here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Professor Shahidul Haq. Mr. Shahidul Haq. Professor Tawfiq. Professor Tawfiq.
Sorry, I think I got disconnected for a minute. Can all of you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
good. So thank you very much, Professor Wangi, for very eloquently sharing with us the core elements of the New Southern Policy of Korea. And I also see that the emphasis on building relationship with IORA and BIMSTEC. Just for information of the distinguished audience, that Bangladesh is currently the vice chair of IORA, and Bangladesh will be taking over the chairmanship in 2022, and look forward for a larger and greater collaboration. At this stage, we have with us Professor Delwar Hussain. Are you with us, sir?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, good. Professor Delwar, I know that you also run as a director of a center for the East Asian studies. So, can you sort of orient us with Bangladesh Korea relationship in the context of Asian evolving geopolitics, if not Indo-Pacific strategy? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And very good afternoon to the distinguished speakers, guests, and participants. I really feel honored to be invited to this very important webinar. As we call it webinar, as this is very, very important, and particularly as I have heard, and all the participants have also listened to the deliberations. I mean, that have actually clearly established the importance of Bangladesh and the Republic of Korea relations, which is so important and for the both countries. And I'm really glad to hear, and also to enhance my knowledge also. I mean, so far this is a wonderful discussion is taking place. Well, I mean, when we talk about relations between the two countries, definitely we can go to the formal diplomatic relations established in 1973. But the recognition of Korea to me is really very important, and that happened in 1972. So this year is really significant. And as we are talking about Bangladesh Korea relations today, actually we can just celebrate these bilateral relations. Even by talking about a lot of K-pop or K-drama or the Hallyu or the Korean wave, which is very strong in Bangladesh among the youngsters, that has been also mentioned by the speakers. So we know, I mean, in foreign policy relations between the two parties or two countries, I mean, of course, I mean, it depends on different factors. And Bangladesh and Korea have actually overcome all the challenges or the issues that have been coming from different backgrounds and finally settled in a very strong relations, and that has reflected very strongly when our Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina visited Korea, and our Excellency, our Foreign Secretary, Ambassador Moomen, also referred to that visit. And during this visit, both Korea and Bangladesh, they agreed. I am quite curious to actually share with you, and definitely you know that the kind of vision, the kind of hope they actually set, and that I think is the foundation of Bangladesh-Korea relations of today, and to elevate it to create a new paradigm of Bangladesh-Korea relations, and I think this is a very good kind of foundation. And where it was mentioned, the consolidation and enhancement of Korea-Bangladesh friendship and cooperation served the fundamental interest of both countries, met the common aspirations of the two peoples, and are conducive to peace and development in the Asian region and the world at large. So, so this is quite a fascinating kind of understanding of bilateral relations between the two very, very friendly countries, and to see the world from Asian perspective. This is very important, and also to see the relations not just within a very specific confines of trade and investment. It is trade and investment plus. So it has cultural component. It has very strong political and strategic component that I think is very, very important. So we have a foundation from this joint press conference that was announced in Seoul in just a decade before. And as an academic, I mean, when we try to explain the relations between the two friendly nations, I mean, of course, I mean, we can bring about a number of components. I mean, we can talk about the structure that Ambassador Hawk is mentioning, that we can see the changes in the structure. So structure in foreign policy is very important. And then we know about the agency, and we can also see our relations by the use of norms that actually has been very instrumental for Bangladesh-Korea relations. And of course, we have different dimensions of relations that have been already mentioned by different speakers. I mean, how and in what ways our interests have been articulated over the years, over the last 47, 48 years. So in terms of structure, I mean, this is very important because we are facing both regional and global scenarios where a new kind of issues are there. And if I just want to elaborate, if we just elaborate this, we may find that we are actually in a crossroad in the sense that particularly from geopolitical point of view. I mean, if we see the situations in East Asia or the situations in South Asia, or even the entire Asia, of course, I mean, the issue of the decline of the US hegemony or US role is a fact. I mean, it is not just fact for the last 4 years or 5 years. It has been in the talk over the last, say, 2 decades or more. And also the relations between China and USA are really important, and then we can see the kind of rivalry between the two countries or hostility, and also we can see the relations between India and China have changed a lot. So we could see the strategic shifts in East Asia and also in South Asia. And we are looking at a new geopolitical environment, and these are becoming more and more important when we read about and we think about this the issues of BRI, Belt and Road Initiative of China, and in Indo-Pacific Strategy or Quad, and even recently the creation of RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. So new polarizations and new kind of competitions are there. But on the other hand, when we appreciate these new realities from the Bay of Bengal to the South China Sea or the Korean Peninsula, so we can see we cannot get rid of the compulsions created by the process of globalization. We cannot get rid of the process of the world that we have seen from the global interdependence. And of course, the need for international cooperation or regional cooperation, as Professor Wangi was emphasizing, regional cooperation. And from that point of view, our Prime Minister also emphasizing this point everywhere in the world. So the regional peace, regional development, which will come through cooperation, is very, very important. So the relations between Bangladesh and South Korea or the Republic of Korea are really important and in a new kind of paradigm. And I can cover different aspects. I think it is better because of time constraint to focus few points that I think are very important for looking ahead about this relationship. So as I have already mentioned, so we have a new context for these two countries. And I personally, as a student of international relations, I could see, and I really, I'm happy to see that Professor Wangi also emphasized this, that South Korea as a middle power, or Bangladesh as an emerging middle power. I mean, we have a lot in common to think about the world and to actually find how we can contribute to the world in terms of peace and prosperity, in terms of development and security. So the kind of relations which we think would actually help both the countries, not only from economic perspective, also from a very comprehensive perspective. So we need to focus on the new avenues of cooperation for the two countries that we can see today. We have the issues of energy, the issues of this ICT and other areas, and the economic and trade relations. I agree with Professor Wangi that $1.6 billion is just a peanut. I mean, the kind of economic development Korea has and also Bangladesh has achieved. I mean, the relations between 12th ranking GDP and 39th ranking GDP should be much more in terms of trade and investment. So this area, I think, is really promising. And also, as we see situations in some of the already developed countries where actually, I mean, there has been some withdrawal of investment. So Bangladesh could be a really important destination. And people-to-people contracts, I really emphasize this point, because when we talk about the Korean wave in Bangladesh, it is really important, because how people are so appreciative of Korean culture in Bangladesh. And we need to focus this because we need to establish very strong relations between the two state and two people. So this is a very strong, I think, kind of thing. And finally, just in 1 minute, what I always think that Korea for Bangladesh is a very good model, and whether it is science and technology, whether it is infrastructure. When we talk about infrastructure, definitely we can learn a lot from Korea. At the same time, infrastructure is also a problem in Bangladesh because we have a very weak infrastructure, and then Korea can also invest in infrastructure. So finally, what I think as an academic, we could see a huge shortage of research and academic activities. And I really appreciate North-South University and the Embassy of Republic of Korea for supporting this or for organizing this kind of seminar, which is really important, and we need more of this kind. And this is very important. I finally want to argue that there is a need for mainstreaming kind of Bangladesh in Korea or South Korea in Bangladesh, not in foreign policy and domestic discourse. I mean, it is. I mean, we can see a lot of positive changes, but we need more kind of initiatives so that we can cover some of the lost times of relations between the two countries. So I'm really again, I'm thankful to the organizers for inviting me, and this is really an excellent program, and I have been already benefited a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Delwar, for orienting us with the evolving geopolitics and the relationship. At this stage, may I call upon Mr. Shin Dong-woo, Director of Asian Pacific Division, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Korea. Are you with us, sir?
Yes, do you hear me?
Good, good. So, I will ask a very simple question, which is, how do you see Bangladesh from the Korean Foreign Office? And I had the opportunity to leading a delegation for a consultation. I saw the warmth, I saw the eagerness to take the relation forward. That's about 3 years back. So how are things now? How do you see Bangladesh in the context of the new policy? I'll stop here and give the floor to you, sir.
You're asking me, right? Okay.
Yes.
To that question, my answer is quite simple. My government unreservedly sees Bangladesh as one of our key partners in the region. And I've been often asked why then Bangladesh was not included originally in the New Southern Policy. And we've answered that New Southern Policy is just the name of one of our many policies for its target countries. And there are many other very important countries to us without a particular name for the countries. So the title of policy is nothing more than a name. So I hope there will be no misunderstanding for our willingness to strengthen our bilateral relations. And so my answer is quite simple and clear. We will stand unreservedly behind strengthening relations with Bangladesh.
Good.
Do I make myself unreserved?
Yeah, absolutely. But anything else that you wish to add?
Oh, of course.
Mr. Wu?
So I was originally asked to speak about Korea's policy toward Asia, and I think that will make my discussion overstretched. So let me please focus more on our bilateral relations with Bangladesh. Our two countries share much of our modern history. As you are all aware, colonial rule, independence, and war, and also fundamental values like democracy and market economy. And we have seen great achievements in our bilateral relations in many ways since 1973. The trade volume grew over 800 times, and more than 150 Korean businesses are active in Bangladesh. Today, Korea is the 5th largest investor in Bangladesh with $1.1 billion. And it is in the pandemic crisis that our two countries showed undiminished cooperation. We have a saying in common in our two countries: a friend in need is a friend indeed. Under a special consideration by the Bangladesh government, we could fly 10 chartered flights and bring in over 1,000 Korean nationals from Bangladesh. Let me thank the Bangladesh government once again on this occasion. The Korean government decided to provide $50 million EDCF this year and COVID-19 test kits and masks, and worth $1.2 million. So our cooperation is going very smoothly and very well, even in this time of crisis. Now, let alone the pandemic crisis, the international environment is, however, undergoing massive changes, challenges, and growing uncertainty. The US-China relations, for example, and major powers, Indo-Pacific strategies, and the like. Our two countries share interest in the peace and prosperity in the region, and we both want to maximize the synergy of our external policies and strategies. So we need to take the relations to a higher level. And here are my suggestions based on the basic policy toward Bangladesh. First, the economic cooperation is mostly, as you know, concentrated in primary manufacturing like textiles and apparel. So we need to expand it to more value-added industries such as ICT, infrastructure, energy, health, and beyond. So it is encouraging that Samsung opened an R&D center in Dhaka, and Hyundai Motors is building an automobile assembly factory in High Tech Park. In July last year, during Korean Prime Minister's visit to Bangladesh, we could renew our will to expand our cooperation to energy and infrastructure. In this regard, we need to make the potential Korean investors feel more comfortable and assured by solving unsolved cases like the Youngwon cooperation case. So second, we need to improve or even change the image of Bangladesh as an investment destination for ordinary Korean businesses. Now, everybody in Korea knows very well that Bangladesh has huge economic potential, but most Korean companies hesitate and find it challenging to move their enterprise to Bangladesh. This is the reality still now. The red tape, the unknown risks, or unfriendly business environment, which they imagine. And they ask to me, what do we do with the first day we get there in Bangladesh? What are the laws and guidelines in investment there? How do we get power and the internet to my office? How can I purchase property or register commercial vehicles? So it's the most important thing to reassure them that Bangladesh has an advantageous business environment. So in this regard, as I said, let me once again emphasize that we need to make the potential investors feel comfortable by solving unsolved cases. And third, we need more grassroots people-to-people exchanges. Of course, it is not easy, and sometimes it's hard to find where to start. And I suggest we start off with little things like cultural events, food, movies, TV dramas, and music. Of course, these efforts will take a long time, and I appreciate what the embassies in both countries have done so far. And last, our two countries should go beyond bilateral relations, strategic collaboration in regional mechanisms such as the ARF, and global issues like vaccine, climate changes, and the UN. By doing this, we can strengthen bilateral relations and then strategic synergy in a virtuous circle. That's it, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wu, for being very frank. I think that's how relationships are built. You have rightly pointed out issues that need to be addressed. And also, we know that in terms of doing business, Bangladesh still needs to do a lot of work. In fact, some of these are also being discussed in Bangladesh. Hopefully, gradually these will be addressed. But I see your points, and thank you very much for that. Can I now call upon Director General Khondoka Talha as to how you see the Korean-Bangladesh relationship from the Foreign Office of Bangladesh? Over to you, Talha.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, distinguished speakers and panelists, Shubha Purano, Annamazeo. From the Foreign Office, Bangladesh Foreign Office, we see, like our Korean colleagues, we see that the bilateral relationship is standing on very strong footing. We do have excellent political relations, but what we feel is that there is enough scope to put more substance into that political relationship. And that's where all these investment and business relations come in. That's where the cultural inputs come in. That's where we look at collaboration beyond bilateral. So there is ample scope for expansion. And I think like Republic of Korea, we do not also have any security issues as such in our relationship. And therefore, it is a sort of neutral economic bond that we are looking for with all countries as we pursue our foreign policy dictum of, as coined by the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, it's friendship to all and malice towards none. So the relationship that has evolved over the last 47 years, it has produced this a degree of business relations, but there is much scope to expand that. There are new areas where we can work with each other. And I would like to actually go over some of those areas. And this is taking cue from what Ambassador Yi has mentioned. It's about the elevation, diversification, and generation. Now, first of all, I would just quickly go through 4 areas that can actually add more substance to the relationship. One of them can be achieved in short term, the other 2 in the medium term, and the last one in long term. So firstly, what we can learn from Republic of Korea is how to have a skilled human resources developed to meet the challenges or meet the requirements rather as we progress, as our economy progresses. So we would require, if Bangladesh is to move from the current position to the 23rd largest economy in no time, then we will need this required skilled workforce to feed into the various development projects, various new industries, various high-tech industries, which we see that could be on the cards for many, and those are the and we do not have sufficient skilled labor, sufficient skilled workforce to cater to their needs. These skilled personnel can also be fed into the existing EPS system, which can also meet the demands in demand of workforce in Korea. They can also feed into the requirements of the Korean companies which are working in Bangladesh, and also other industries where which will actually require new skills to develop. And without these skilled workforces, I think it will be a huge challenge for us to take the next leap forward. Therefore, I think what we have seen is that if we can jointly establish a center which can actually train people, and this can be a center which could train people into they can learn Korean languages there and Korean cultures there to feed into the EPS system, and their Koika and King Sejong Institute Foundation can play a role as well. Then these skilled personnel can either find opportunities in Bangladesh or in Korea. Secondly, we have delimited our maritime boundary, and we are ready to explore the blue economy. And South Korea has got a lot of experiences in exploring maritime resources. So we see that there could be huge opportunities in joint collaboration in deep sea fishing, in shipbuilding, particularly the fishing trawlers which can go to the deep sea for fishing, fish processing, ship recycling, fisheries and marine aquatic products, marine biotechnology, and there could be joint ventures in in oil and gas explorations. So there is immense possibility in that particular area, and we can mutually benefit through our collaborations in blue economy. The third area that I wanted to mention was that Bangladesh, as it graduates from the LDC group, would be facing more challenges as the flow of ODA and concessional terms is likely to dry up. Also, the trade preferences that we enjoy as an LDC, and which has been also alluded to by Mr. Ki Hak-sun, the trade preferences will erode. So we need to think about how to deal with the post-graduation policies. How do we deal with that? On top of that, we will be graduating at a time when, hopefully the post-COVID period, the international economic situation is likely to be uncertain. And in such situation, we may fall into what is known as the medium income trap. So in the middle income trap, Bangladesh hopefully has crossed over the low income trap. But in the middle income trap, unless we develop a technological base, it is going to be extremely difficult for us to deal with the middle income gap. There are only a handful of countries which have successfully met the challenges of the middle income trap, and Korea is one of them. So we can learn a lot about how to deal with this from the Korean experiences. So these are the few issues that I wanted to highlight at this stage, and maybe we can come back for other issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Director General Talha, for actually being very precise, very to the point, as always. So thank you, and with this we come into the first circle. I have a couple of questions in my box, which I'll throw to the panel. But if among the panelists Any questions to any other panelists you may wish to ask now? So the floor is open.
Yes, Ambassador Shohidul Haq, if I may
Please, sir.
ask our friends from Korea, he mentioned, I think, a very important point that we should look beyond the regular economic and diplomatic relations and look for a more comprehensive or strategic relationship. With a few other countries, we have done it, but I don't know how it works in case of Republic of Korea, so that this issue can be discussed in the next Foreign Office consultations to take our relationship a bit formally to the next level, whether it is called comprehensive or strategic relationship, I don't know. So that is number one. And on a lighter note, a lot of people have mentioned today about the Korean soft power, and I do agree and urge upon our ambassador here, Ambassador Lee, and also Ki Hak-sung, but they can jointly have a few K-pop joints in Dhaka and Chittagong, perhaps, where we can have Korean barbecue and also Korean pop and also Korean drama, which are very popular amongst our youth. So maybe that will, create more or give more vibe to our relationship. Thank you.
Thank you, Foreign Secretary. Sir, if you allow me, I would also like to add that possibly time has come, and as the Chairman Sung has indicated, to start looking at a possible FTA, maybe when we have our 50th anniversary celebration, to keep a marker. If both the Foreign Office agrees, then that negotiation will take little longer because in the context of RCEP and Bangladesh's own limitations, the negotiation could be little longer. And as Bangladesh is also looking at RCEP, where South Korea is a partner, possibly that's an area where you both the Foreign Office may wish to look at. Thank you very much for the inputs. Any other questions at this stage? I have in fact two questions, and I want to throw it to the floor. One is that we always loosely talk about technological collaboration, innovations, but actually, can someone tell me in one sentence that what actually need to be done? Talha has lured us to the EPS style skill development, but technology is much larger and bigger than that. And we know that South Korea is currently leading in the world of technology and innovations, and it has also fixed his eye that they would like to be the leader in the world of technology. So how Bangladesh is relatively behind in the technology and innovations, although ahead of many other countries, but not certainly Korea, can do together. Any taker of this question?
I think
Sir, please.
Yes.
Chairman Sung.
Many years ago, I was suggesting that when you are sending your labor, rather than sending labor, you send a young, young engineers. Then they will also, Koreans will find a good place for them to be trained naturally. So that this is very important that you send engineers in any form, then Korean companies will train them naturally. That they send, you can send 1,000 engineers to learn in Korea. That after 3 years, when they go back, they are all middle-level engineers, very conversant with new technologies and things like that. And also when the country has a more comfort level for foreign investors, for higher technology companies and all these things, it is very important that those technology companies will come naturally to invest in Bangladesh without much reservation. That's comfort level as well as your training. Both will really give you a opportunity to excel in the league of your similar countries. That this is very important for Bangladesh. So I think my ambassador would really be able to host this kind of requirement very well, speaking to his office, and then my government will be glad to really accommodate such new proposals. So rather than giving the cheap labor and make some money and buy houses and increasing your house prices in the country, rather than increasing it, that if these people come here and then they interact with the higher end technology societies of Korea, and then they go back, their communication between these two groups on the higher level will really give a good foundation for your next level of development. I want to urge it that way. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think you have sort of hit the nail properly. It's the comfort level and the skilled human resources. So I'm sure that the Foreign Secretary here, the Director General is here, and also the Director from the Korean Foreign Office is here. I'm sure that this will also give them some ideas to what both the government should take up into the next official level meeting, and eventually, and I still feel and hope that we should look at an FTA to make it more comprehensive, as you have rightly pointed out. The Bangladesh should be more aggressively seeking FTA with many countries. I have one more question. I'll throw that to the floor. I've been very interestingly reading a document which came out in July 2020 from Korea, which is with the Korean New Deal, and I see a very nice way of in terms of policy, combining the green and the high tech, and working out a kind of a very visionary policy, because often we start off technologically sound without looking at the environment, or looking at the environment without looking at the high tech, because technology is also a disruptor. I wish it could be neutral, but it is not. Although it looks on the face very neutral, but it is not, whether in terms of environmental impact or in terms of equality and inequality question. So is there that document, and certainly drafted and implemented in Korea, but is there something that the Korean Foreign Office thinks could also be learned by some of the relatively less advanced technologically and in terms of environmental consciousness countries could follow? Or is there an attempt, or is it exclusively fit to serve the Korean purpose? Thank you. Any taker, if. How about Professor Wangi?
Thank you. Thank you for pointing me out. The Green New Deal announced by the president on last July, that was one of his another major policy, domestic policy initiative in economic areas. I think in terms of green, you know that Korea is one of the heavy emitters of CO2, and we have very daunting challenge of mitigating the CO2 emissions. Actually, a couple of days ago, President Moon announced that we will reach net zero emission of CO2 by 2050. This is very challenging goal, but I think this is the way we should go. I think one of the potential areas of cooperation between our two nations is climate-related areas, especially the adaptation and mitigation as well. I know that Bangladesh has very diverse set of challenges coming from the climate changes, for example, flooding and things like that. I think Korea has some relevant technologies. For example, the forecasting the flood and drought and the satellite-based information technology and things like that. So I think we need to explore more of the collaboration and cooperation in climate-related areas. I think in that regard, even without going into the high-tech areas, I think you have many common usage technologies related to the climate change adaptation and mitigation. So I think in that regard, I think we need to also have some potential to explore.
Thank you very much.
Can I say a few words quickly?
Please.
Can I say a few words quickly?
Please, sir.
You have a shining example of green technology looming up in Chittagong, Bangladesh. So if you have any time, that we will be happy to show how Youngwon is struggling to plant 2.4 million trees and then creating water bodies and solar panels and all these things. And the example which is not existing in Korea is now coming along in Bangladesh, Chittagong, Bangladesh, Korean Export Processing Zone. So I will be sending you some documents there, but seeing is a believing. Please have a look.
Thank you very much, sir. Certainly, sir. Yes. We look forward to also taking some of our students, possibly from our engineering faculty. We have a large engineering faculty, and I'm sure others will do. Sir, we have a colleague of ours, Miss Catherine Lee. Talha, I'll come back to you in a minute. We have a professor, a colleague, Catherine Lee, with us. She wants to ask a question. Catherine, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'm just very, very interested to know if it's possible to increase the traffic between the students coming from Korea to North-South University and students from North-South University going to Korea. We have 2 Korean students at North-South University right now. One is getting a bachelor's in economics and the other one a master's of English. And they're both very, very satisfied students at North-South. And we frankly would love to have more students from North-South University. So if there's anyone at the embassy that I could talk to, please let me know. I'm the director of the Office of External Affairs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you. Somebody was trying to take the floor, and every time I missed it. Please.
Yeah, I was trying to talk about the technology front, like from the university point of view. We would always like to see that, the partnering institutions or partnering countries are going to come forward to the university to establish, high-tech or innovation labs there. I think Korea has that potential to support us, because all these speakers finally been able to talk about one thing, that, our relationship now from ready-made garments, we have to go to advanced technology or frontier technology. When we talk about advanced or frontier technologies, these technology things has to come at the very beginning in the academia. That's why Professor Delvarasan also mentioned that, sort of collaboration with academia should be there. We would talk about robotics, machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence. We are talking about heavily on ICT front and digital, support that are important for North-South even. Our students has to learn those things. Korea is someone who can actually come forward and establish a joint collaborative projects in our campus so that we can actually train our student. The OA chairman Song is actually looking forward to see that, well, Bangladeshi students are going to go in Korea and even working in middle level and also in the top level in engineering and other front. If you do not come and collaborate with other universities, especially university like North-South, we're going to wait for that thing that Korea should come. The way I submitted last week one project in Korean Ministry of Education. We put some component there to have innovation lab, to have entrepreneurship lab, to convert even our common students to become even technology savvy and to finally being able to float around in the marketplace with good ideas. I believe that, well, Bangladeshi students are heavily creative and innovative, but they do not have that facilities in our country or in our institutions. So Korea is advanced in many technologies, and I think that collaboration should be there in our university with Korean universities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Annan. I think the message is very clear. And that's why this kind of dialogue is extremely critical, so that we can hear out each other. Digitalha, we are already little over, but we'll try and wrap up quickly. So Talha, you have the floor.
Oh, I'll just take less than a minute. Sir, I wanted to mention about the Partnership for Green Growth. There is already a platform of 12 countries, and both Korea and Bangladesh are on that platform. So that platform can be used to actually collaborate on green growth. And this also affords the public-private partnerships. So that is an excellent mechanism. And I think Korea is going to host the next meeting middle of next year.
Great, thank you. Thank you for flagging that with us. We are coming to close, but before that, Ambassador Lee, would you like to take the floor? I mean, just if you so wish.
Yes, listening to this intervention among the panelists, I cannot but try to share with some of the information what I'm doing together with the government of Bangladesh, especially regarding the young people and ICT and tech-related things. We have at least two ongoing projects. One is with the ICT division with the State Minister Palak. We are developing a project to promote Bangladesh young startups, and we signed an agreement for that project for 3 years. And under this joint project, Bangladesh ICT division will select 5 teams up to 10 people every year, talented potential startups with creative ideas through a so-called ideathon competition. And this competition has been done very recently, and I believe by now ICT division might have come up with these 5 teams and 10 people. And the government selects these 5 teams, and they send them to Korea. And in Korea, we host them for 6 months. And together with the Korean expert and institutions, we are providing kind of incubation and mentoring and coaching and even IP supporting, and also making prototype for the commercialization of this idea. So it's been jointly done. And these people, after 6 months, they come back to Bangladesh and they share what they have obtained in Korea with the startup ecosystem in Bangladesh. So this is one good example we are focusing on, not only ICT, but also focus on these young people. And we do have another ongoing program with Dhaka University. With KOICA, we have a so-called capacity building project to promote youth entrepreneurs. So this is, even though the center will be established in Dhaka University, I believe this center will be open to all young people. who are aspiring for this entrepreneurship with good ideas. And in addition to that, I'd like to share that there are at least 1,500 Bangladesh students studying in Korea now, and most of them are in higher education, the master's or PhD degree, and almost all of them are in engineering field. So there are increasing number of Bangladesh students going to Korea, and even though the corona situation, unfortunately, is affecting this increasing trend, but as soon as this situation calms down, I do think that the number of Bangladesh students going to Korea will continuously increase. And for the embassy, we will work closely with the Bangladesh government and also our headquarters in Seoul, how we could further accommodate these aspirations of Bangladesh young people to have their future with Korea and Korean colleagues. And regarding this Catherine's request about this the way for increasing the number of exchanges among students, and I think my embassy will be very open and willing to discuss with you and to seek the ways and how we could work together with the North-South University as well.
Thank you, sir. I'll be in touch with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that was very encouraging to hear. Anyone else would like to take the floor at this stage before we go into the concluding session? We have two more speakers.
Ambassador Shahidul Haq, I think our Ambassador Abida Islam has raised her hand once or
sir,
twice.
I will give
Could
the floor
give her
to
a chance,
Abida.
please?
Sir, Abida will come in the concluding session. I know that.
Okay.
I know that, sir. But I thought that if anyone wants to take the floor, there has been some questions sent to the chat box, which I will share with the Ambassador Lee later on. So I would like to assure some of the listeners that your concern will be taken care in a very humble way at our level. So with this, I take three sort of a takeaway for me. First is there's a huge potential, both sides, for collaboration, lifting the relationship beyond the primary to secondary to the tech and the rest of it. And the second takeaway for me is that possibly we have to work towards enhancing the comfortability each other's further. I think we understand that, those who are in this field for some time. And the third one is the collaboration in real sense to lift the skill level of Bangladesh. I think there Bangladesh and Korea could really form a very good partner, and North-South University, including our technology, our engineering department could come very handy. I'm sure the Vice Chancellor would also flag that. But at this stage, let me call upon Ambassador Abida Islam for a quick concluding remarks. And so Abida and Talha are 2-star, for foreign service. You can see we often depend on both of them for policy thinking and for representing Bangladesh in many places. I was little miser in highlighting their achievements, but you all know their performance will speak themselves. Over to Abida.
Respected moderator, respected Foreign Secretary, His Excellency Ambassador Lee Jang-gun, respected Senior Fellow Vice Chancellor of the North-South University, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to you. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to Embassy of Republic of Korea in Dhaka, especially Ambassador Lee, for taking this initiative, which may be the first of its kind. And also I'd like to thank him for inviting me to participate in this important occasion. I'm honored to be a part of this August gathering. I'm also thankful to SIPG of North-South University for organizing this wonderful event. Taking this opportunity, I'd like to register my sincere thanks to Honorable respected Foreign Secretary and the moderator and the distinguished speakers and the distinguished panelists for their comprehensive deliberations and encouraging remarks and to further strengthen our bilateral relationship. My previous speakers have actually covered the whole gamut of our bilateral relationship. I would deeply appreciate the positive tone during the discussion. And as the last speaker, I'm not going to repeat those, just like to mention a few points. During the almost past 5 decades, our bilateral relationship with South Korea has grown in depth and dimension. South Korea is one of our time-tested friend in our journey towards socio-economic development. We share similar struggle for independence and also in preserving the dignity of our mother language. In the international front, we are working closely with South Korea. Bangladesh strongly support South Korea's position on the denuclearization of North Korea. And we're thankful to South Korea for its continuous support at the International Forum on the Rohingya issue and also for extending humanitarian support to the Rohingyas. And we deeply appreciate, as our Foreign Secretary has also mentioned, the South Korea's humanitarian assistance to Bangladesh to fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Ambassador Lee has mentioned about elevation, so we may concentrate it with, we may actually commence it with engagement at highest political level, because it is an extremely important factor as it creates a momentum in our bilateral relationship. As we have seen, our Honorable Prime Minister visited South Korea 10 years ago, and after 17 years, Korean Prime Minister visited Bangladesh. And unfortunately, there is no ministerial visit from the Korean side for the past few years, and a presidential visit from the South Korea is yet to take place. So I think that we may emphasize on the regular exchange of visit of that kind, including holding of bilateral consultation mechanism like the Foreign Office consultation, including the Joint Economic Commission meeting, which are pending for a long time. In 2017, as Professor Cho has mentioned, that South Korea has adopted this new two policies, new southern policies and new northern policies, and Bangladesh is not included in that policy. We have registered our interest to be included in that policy on a number of occasions, but recently we have learned that actually probably Korean government is thinking of adopting another kind of policy to include the other South Asian nations which are left out in this northern as a southern policy.
Southern new policy.
Southern new policy. Yes. So I believe that if Bangladesh is included in this kind of policy, it could be instrumental in forging a stronger bilateral relationship with South Korea. On economic front, we deeply value our relationship with South Korea as one of our major investor and a key development partner. And we're delighted that there is a new areas of cooperation between South Korea and Bangladesh beyond garments. And the South Korean entrepreneurs, businessmen are investing in new areas now in Bangladesh. And during the visit of Korean Prime Minister in 2019, he mentioned that there will be a possibility of cluster investment from South Korea to our EPZ, but we have seen that, yes, of course, already 75 companies are invested in EPZ in Bangladesh. As Professor Chow has mentioned that our bilateral trade is less than 2 billion, and I also agree with him that it should be more. And because there is huge potential for Bangladesh, which are still untapped by Korean business houses. For this, there should be actually regular exchange of business delegation between the leading chambers of two countries, which is almost zero for the past few years. And Koima visited Bangladesh almost 10 years ago, and there's hardly any visit from our leading chambers to Korea, and they are not connected with the mainstream Korean chambers here. There's a lack of participation from Bangladesh side in the international trade and commerce related fairs in Korea. Mr. Kiak-san has mentioned about textile supply chain. Our RMG related chambers may participate in Daegu textile fair, but we haven't seen anyone to participate in any of Korea's trade fairs or commerce related fairs. In 2019, For the first time, EPB and Korea and Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce participate in 2 fairs. And that is, after 46 or 45 years of our relationship. But there should be more engagement and more interest from our business houses towards South Korea, and similarly from Korean side to Bangladesh. Sorry, Korean side to Bangladesh as well. Yes. And though Bangladesh and South Korea has now signed a number of MOUs, but unfortunately, there are no follow-ups from either side. Even during the visit of the Korean Prime Minister in 2019, there was 4 MOUs and 2 were on related to trade promotion, but there are no follow-ups on those MOUs. To forge effective and a strong economic partnership, we must address these factors. Regarding cultural cooperation, owing to the growing emphasis on the soft powers like public diplomacy, culture has become an extremely important segment in our bilateral relationship. Since 1979, we have a cultural agreement with South Korea, which is renewable after every 5 years. And during the VVIP visit in 2019, we have renewed it till 2023. And Bangladesh Embassy is trying its level best to increasingly participate and organize public diplomacy events here. And as respected Foreign Secretary has mentioned that South Korea is becoming a preferable destination for our Bangladeshi students. Yes, more Bangladeshi students are coming here and pursue their higher studies. And as Ambassador Lee has also mentioned, that they're studying engineering and all science-related subjects. But the thing is that being an LDC, what happens, you know about the brain drain. So the students who comes here for higher studies, they have a tendency to go to developed countries to for better living standard and life. To popularize Bangladesh, as many our speakers have mentioned about the Korean culture, K-pops, and BTS, K-drama, which are popular among our young generation. We indeed need to build a strong relationship, as Professor Hussein has mentioned. To that end, to popularize Bangladeshi culture, we are discussing an MOU with for exchange of TV programs, including skill development and capacity building programs between EBS, that is Educational Broadcasting System of Korea and Bangladesh Television. It is in a preliminary stage. And for more people-to-people contact, there should be regular exchanges between performers, painters, academicians, researchers, students, journalists, and other professionals. As you can see that from the record, we can see that only over 6,000 Koreans visited Bangladesh in 2019, and against over 18,000 Bangladeshis visited Korea last year. We may also take initiative to translate our literary works, notable literary works, into Korean language in order to, present popularize our culture heritage to Korean people, Korean common people. And if there's a regular passenger flight between Seoul and Dhaka, if we could introduce that, it will of course increase the people-to-people exchange. Orientation with Korean culture has a greater implication for our EPS worker, because due to similarity of culture, we have seen that there's a likelihood from the Korean employers to employ foreign workers from those countries where they have similarity of cultures. That's why we have requested our concerned agencies, ministries in Bangladesh to place more emphasis on the Korean language proficiency and cultural orientation of our Bangladeshi EPS workers. As Ambassador Lee has mentioned, that the number of, due to the recent visa restrictions, our students and EPS workers cannot actually travel to Korea. I hope that with the improvement of the pandemic situation in both the countries and also the distribution of effective vaccines to our workers, probably this situation will be lifted. And there was an issue of ATA came discussed in the among the panelists. Actually, we have proposed our Ministry of Commerce to start thinking about this process with Korea. Actually, as a LDC, we are getting all kind of privileges because 80% of our imports, Korea's import in here is consists of RMG, and we are getting duty-free, quota-free kind of access under member of AFTA and as a LDC member. So, but I think that after graduating, what would be the scenario, and considering that we should start, negotiating with Korea about the possibility of PPA or that kind of arrangement. So we have sent a proposal to our Ministry of Commerce. They have actually analyzing it, and probably we'll hear something from them. And as mentioned by our previous speakers, that IORA, of course, is another avenue for our bilateral relationship because during the last meeting in October, the issue of blue cooperation in blue economy, trade and investment were discussed in that forum. And regarding the technological innovation and support, Ambassador Lee has updated us. But I also must say that Bangladesh is also doing very well in robotics. But if Korean, this kind of expert could go to Bangladesh, they can also encourage these youngsters to show the right path in this sector. And there's also other areas we can learn from the Korean experience, from for example blue economy, which was mentioned by the panelists, and there's a smart agriculture also, and about green growth as mentioned by DG Talha. We can our Minister of Environment was in touch with the Korean Minister of Environment, and they were talking about how they're cooperating a Delta plan. So probably we'll hear something in the near future what they're doing in this particular sector. So in a nutshell, that is all from me.
Thank you.
But as I conclude, yeah, sir. As I conclude, I'm certain that the discussion that we have actually given rise to throw up some innovative ideas and initiative for us to work for further strengthening our bilateral relations and friendship in the future. I personally am inspired by the consensus by all on the importance of this relationship. And I again thank the organizer, distinguished speakers, moderators, panelists for this valuable inputs and perspective on Bangladesh-ROK bilateral relationship. I wish you all a very happy New Year in advance, and long live Bangladesh-ROK friendship and cooperation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ambassador Abida, for giving a quick reality check in terms of the relationship. Very frank, but very forward-looking. We appreciate. Before I request our Honorable Chair, Professor Atikul Islam, Vice Chancellor of North-South University, to take over, I just want to flag that after each of these webinar, we normally come out with a policy document, which then we share with it. So whatever we have discussion is not going to be going to remain in the YouTube. It will have a hard expression in terms of a policy paper, which we will share with everyone in order to keep a marker for future consultations. So with this, I will take a leave of you. It has been an extremely encouraging session, especially hearing from the chairman, Sung, and also from the ambassadors and the foreign secretary. I am glad to see that foreign secretary is still around. I don't know how he's still sitting on his chair, because I had a similar saga, and often I could share 5 minutes and then I had to lie down because of this COVID after impact. So thank you, sir, for being with us. Everybody, sir, over to you, Professor Atikul Islam. You may wish to conclude, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Shahidul Haq. North-South University is a university that believes in engagement with the community, with the scholars, with industry, with professions, with government, and of course, internationally. A university is nothing unless it has an international dimension. And we also, as Ambassador Shahidul Haq has said, we also are interested in making relevant input to policymaking. We want policymaking to be informed by our research, by our discussions as much as possible. Lots of highly interesting things have been discussed. They are important from the Korean perspective, from the Bangladesh perspective. I am glad that this discussion took place under the auspices of North-South University. I'm very thankful to the two ambassadors, Ambassador Lee Jang-kyun and Ambassador Abida Islam, for giving their valuable time in this way. And I'm particularly thankful to Ambassador Masood bin Momen, who has not been the first time with us. He has given us time generously before, and once again to demand on such a big chunk of time of his working day is something unusual, and we remain grateful to you, sir. Khondokar Talha, Mr. Sumki Haq, I got a letter from him. He's a very wonderful sort of a person, a warm personality, and he made a suggestion about which I'll say something in a minute. Mr. Shen Dong-Hu, Professor Cho Wangi, and Professor Delwar Hussain of the University of Dhaka, and Professor Abdul Hanan Chaudhry, my own colleague, my colleague Sheikh Tawfiq. I thank you all. Particularly, I thank SIPG for organizing this one. I come to two specific points, which is about startups. We have an agreement with the ICT Ministry about startups, and we have a very vigorous program of startups at NSU. And I believe this is the first one, and this is the most active one in this country. So maybe through the ICT Ministry, we'll be working together as a team also. About the other suggestion that we send more engineers, what happened over the last 3 or 4 months is that we have signed an agreement with a Japanese employer group that we will train, literally I would say over a year, hundreds of engineers from various engineering institutions in Bangladesh, and we'll train them mainly in Japanese culture and Japanese language before they land in Japan to work. So similar things can be done with Korea if we can get help on Korean languages. North-South University is open, and we do not believe that any partnership can flourish when one partner always wants to get help and the other partner is supposed to help that partner all the time. We believe that only if there is mutual interest, if there is benefit for both, partnerships survive. And on that basis, North-South University is ready to enter into partnership with any government, with any university, with any research institution, not expecting any extra help from them, but being equal partner, making equal contributions in terms of funding, in terms of intellectual property. And North-South, as I said, is open to those kind of offers. In fact, we are seeking out those kind of offers. I won't lengthen my speech anymore. Basically, once again, I thank you on behalf of North-South University for donating your time so generously to us. Hopefully, this will be of benefit to us all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Professor Tawfiq, would you like to say something?
No, I think our Honorable Vice Chancellor has done a wonderful job by giving thanks to all. We are very happy and grateful to all the participants and panelists. So with that note, we can conclude it. And as we promised that we will share the policy brief with all the relevant stakeholders and participants when it is ready. So thank you, we are ending.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Lee.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody.
I will see you again. Thank you.
হ্যাঁ, clear করে দেবো।